Hey, welcome to sunny Edinburgh, and it's me, Martin McKenna, in the background somewhere without my camera on today, straight into live demo mode, giving you a bit of an overview of the Zoom Room 2 profile for Ecamm. So if you've managed to get to this video and you haven't already downloaded the profile, then go to streamprofiles.sellfy.store and you can download it for free. Why would you want a profile? Well, you could start from scratch every single time, but what's the point in that? I've already put a profile together for you with a whole load of cameras lined up and a whole load of guest placeholders all lined up and everything in place, so you don't have to do any of that. You can just go in and change a couple of colors and a couple of other bits and pieces design wise to suit your liking, and that's it really. You're up and ready to roll. So a couple of bits of housekeeping. Once you have got your profile delivered to you, you're not going to have to pay for that, but you will need to go through the store process, which means you're going to sign up to my mailing list. You can unsubscribe at any point should you really want to, but why would you? Because then you're going to miss out on all the good new stuff that's coming out. So after that, you can put a 0 in for the cost unless you want to make a contribution towards my design work. Entirely up to you, but you can add a 0 for the cost and then it won't ask you for credit cards, etc. Once you've downloaded that profile, you're going to want to store it somewhere safe. So if you put it on your desktop or leave it in your downloads folder, it's either likely to get lost or disappear up to iCloud if you're not careful. So wherever your safe location is for your Ecamm files, store it there, whether that's somewhere on your hard drive or on an external hard drive, but put it somewhere safe so you don't lose it. You then just double click on the profile and it will automatically jump straight into Ecamm and the profile will be totally visible. So it's as easy as that to start it off. Then what you're going to want to do is make a duplicate of the profile. So go up to the menu and choose duplicate profile and then give it a new name for whatever today's run of show is going to be. And you're going to do that multiple different times because you're not going to need everything that's in this profile every time you use it. So I'd recommend just making a duplicate. Then the first thing you want to do after you've made your duplicate is go in and butcher it a bit. By that, what I really mean is decide how many guests that you've got for today. So if you're only running with one guest, then you can get rid of all of these other things up here where it says guest 2, guest 3, panel, Zoom active speaker. If you don't need them, just get rid of them because it'll only complicate things. So just choose how many people you're going to want on your show and then get rid of the other folders. Simple as that. They're grouped together nicely. So here I have my host folder and that's going to show me all of the stuff to do with my host. So host solo, a title screen, host and some comments. You're now getting a picture, host and a screen share, and host and a web widget. So those are all in my host folder. So you're probably going to want most of those, but if there's any of those scenes that you don't actually want to use, then just grab the scene, put it in the bin. Okay, simple as that. So be fairly vicious with this. You don't need to keep everything every time because you've made a duplicate and the original's there. Just keep making those duplicates and getting rid of the things you don't want. So other items that are in there, so for one guest, I've got a guest solo sitting in there, and as you'd expect, a guest next to me, a guest with some comments, and so on and so forth. You get the picture. So if I look at this one, on the right hand side, you can see all of the overlays that are sitting there. So the golden rule generally is, if the overlay is locked, it's locked for a reason, don't touch it. Okay, just leave it alone. So if you do that, then you won't mess anything up. So what have we got within the overlays? I've put my own logo up here with a bit of rotation going on that logo. It's up to you what you want to do with your logo and where you want to place it and colors, etc. But the logo is in there as a placeholder so you can see what it looks like. My comments I keep at the top of each screen so that you can hide or show them. And that's a comment placeholder. So any comments you bring in should drop in to that shape and size. Now I find that sometimes it doesn't work until you're actually on a live, and then your first comment comes in and you put it there and it works great, or it doesn't work and then you have to size it, but then the subsequent comments do all come in at the correct size and shape. So hopefully it'll work, but I do find that a little bit finicky on occasion. Then below that, we've got our names and name boxes. So if you know the names of your guests, then this is where you come in and you just change the text on the guest name, and you can change the color block in the background if you really want to. But if you're going to do that, you're going to have to do it on every single scene, so that's going to be quite hard work, so you may not want to do that. But if you want to get rid of the name block, then obviously you can just have just a name, and you can move that placeholder to somewhere else on the screen if you want to move it within the camera placement. If you want to, the names are sitting above the cameras intentionally, so that you can do exactly that. If you want to get rid of all of your names, and you might want to do that a bit later on, then you can just hide the names folder as well. So the reason you might want to do that is if you're inviting Zoom guests on, so we'll come back to that a bit later on, because you may not know all of their names. And the cameras are all labeled as well. So camera A is always going to be the host camera, and then we have guest 1, and as we'll see a bit later on, guest 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. All of those are set up for you, so that you don't need to do anything. We then have a background, which is the inner frame, which is my nice white frame here, which I think makes things stand out. But if you don't want that, then I guess you could do that and get rid of it. And we've also got the outer frame here, so we get rid of the outer frame, or bring it back in, or come here and change the color. Now I've got mine on a slight gradient here, from a deep purple to a very slightly lighter purple. But if you wanted to change those colors, then you could do so just here, and you just click on the colors and go and change them to whatever you want, and it will change it in every scene, because this is in show in background. If you want to get a bit fancier, then of course I have put a fancy option in there. So if I hide my outer frame here and bring in the background frame, I've got a sort of bright, radiant frame going on in the background. So that's there, will appear on every scene. There's also a tint option as well. So if I want to tint that, then I can click on the tint option, and I can change the color of the tint as well. So you see it going in and out of that slightly red color there. If I take the tint back off. So if you want something really dramatic, then you can do that, or you can put your own backgrounds in there as well. So for the moment, the idea was to keep this quite business-like, and therefore I've just gone for a plain frame. So that's what we've got in the background in terms of different elements for guest number 1, and it's very similar for guest number 2, as you would expect. So hosts and guests, and 2 guests and screen share, for instance. So they're all laid out for you. The screen share is going to be set, I can't remember if I've set that to the second monitor, but it's a standard wide frame screen share. The web widget I've made just a little bit bigger as I could. I had enough room on the screen, so the web widget could be anything that you want from the web. You just need to go into the web widget and change that. So if I come over to my scene and look at my widget, click on the widget and do edit widget, I can give it a new URL here, and it will go to that new location. Don't change the width and the height. They're designed specifically to fit the screen and maximize the screen size. So just change your URL to wherever you want to point to. And once you're in that URL, then there's a little button down the bottom, so you can make it actually active as well. So the screen share suddenly becomes active, and I can roll up and down, or I can click in to any of those and it will play music and all of that good stuff as well. The only thing I would say about widgets is occasionally they disappear on me, so I'm not entirely sure why, or no rhyme nor reason. But if the widget does disappear on you, then hide it and show it again, and it will reappear for you. So that's just a little note of usage, really. Everything's labeled in folders as well. So if it's 3 guests you've got, then there's the 3 guest option. I'm not so keen on this screen share, but it's kind of the best I could do with the room I had available. But there we go. Let's hope you're not using 3 guests. So beyond 3 guests, we've also got some panel stuff. Now this is where we're starting to think about maybe having some Zoom guests in. So with your Zoom guests, there are plenty of videos on there, out there, how to use Zoom with Ecamm. So I recommend thoroughly that you go and have a look at those. and there are a number of settings which I'll come back to at the end, which you may or may not want to play with. So one of the things I mentioned earlier was that you may not know the names of your Zoom guests, so you might not know who you're bringing up on the screen here. And if that's the case, you can just get rid of the name placeholders here. I don't think you're going to want to type them all in live, so you're just going to rely on the fact that that you know who they are and you're talking to them. But at this moment in time, Ecamm does not bring through the names for guests directly from Zoom. Hopefully it will do soon, and at that point I guess I need to come and redo this particular profile, but for the moment the names do not come in from Zoom. You would have to put those in manually, so you might want to just hide and show the names, or if you want to bring out your own name, you could highlight your own host name, and if you drag that above the names folder somewhere, then that's not going to disappear when you hide everything else. So that's how you hide and show all the different names, and we've got different numbers of panels for different comments, etc, etc, and the same for screen share and the same for web widgets. So it's exactly the same profile for those, for the different versions, so that you don't have to go and play about with them to get them in the right place. Then we've also got our Zoom panel for active speakers as well. So this is where you're bringing in a whole bunch of guests and you want them to appear larger when they're speaking. So do watch out for muting and non-muting if you're using the active speaker. It's very, very sensitive. People cough or sneeze or anything like that, and their microphone is not muted, then they will jump straight into that big scene. So be really, really careful when you're doing that. Hopefully there's some different controls coming soon for sort of managing the functionality there, but at the moment just be careful. That's my final words. So there are different versions here for more panel members, and I guess the more panel members you're going to have, then the more likelihood is that you're not going to know all of the different names or have them all in advance, but perhaps you will do. So one use case scenario might be that all of these guests around the screen here are board members or team members who you're going to bring up, and you're going to have a chat with them all, and you're going to say, David, tell us about the latest policies for XYZ. Sheena, can you run us through the numbers for this month, or whatever it may be. And you can do that. One of the things I quite like to do is have all of the guests in black and white, so you can just change the guest cameras to black and white and then have the one in the center as color, so that jumps in as color and highlights them, but you can still clearly see all of your guests in Zoom. Now this is the maximum number that you can possibly have, so it's you plus 8 guests plus the active speaker. So this is top maximum number you can have. If you have got a older Mac, it's probably not going to do this for you, so just watch out for that. If you've got an older Mac, don't try and bring in millions of guests. Everything uses systems resources. There is nothing that you can do to stop it other than make sure you close everything down that you're not using except for Ecamm. So I would only recommend that you're going in with this many guests if you've got a higher level Mac, and certainly nothing that is pre-M level. So that's all the different elements there, and while I'm in this one, I suppose I may as well just change around some of the backgrounds, because you can see there's a heck of a lot of stuff going on there that I've had to put in as placeholders. But let's show you those different backgrounds again. So I'm going to hide the out of frame, and I'm going to bring in my flashy background and give it a bit of a tint. So if that's what you wanted your Zoom call to look like, that's what your Zoom call could look like. And why don't I just roll back out again and show you a couple of the preferences that you're going to need to look at within Ecamm. So if I come up to Ecamm here and look at the preferences, and we'll zoom back in again. So there is a set of Zoom preferences, and you can choose to auto admit your participants. Now most people don't do that because you don't know when they're going to be arriving and you don't know who they are, but I tend to just set that as auto admit my participants, because they're not going to appear on the screen straight away. They're just going to join the meeting. So I also tend to put always for the camera sources, but that's just me, because I want my people to come in and then automatically be allocated to a camera source. You're still going to have to go through and allocate the camera source to a placeholder, guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, guest 4. But it just seems to be easier for me to do it that way. But some people are not going to want to do that, so never or no participants for that. The show Zoom guest names, that only works we're using camera source mode. We are not using camera source mode here. So other items to know, I've put show me as an active speaker here. So we include the Zoom active speaker in this window because we want that. I've also ticked this show me as an active speaker using camera A, and that just means that when I am speaking in the Zoom window that we're looking at the moment, I will jump into the center of the screen. If you do not want that to happen and you want your placeholder permanently on the screen, then you untick that box there. So that's going to make me jump into the center of the screen in the big box. If you don't want that, untick that box. General settings that I have set up generally are probably default source mode blank and slower cross dissolve, because I prefer that as a way of moving between scenes. If you don't like that, it's entirely up to you, but that's where you change it. So hopefully I've covered most of the things to do there, other than how to actually run Zoom meetings itself. But if you want to do that, go and have a look at Neil Faramon's how-tos, or Alex, or Aidan Salisbury's, or Doc's, or any of the many others, Kat as well, or Anna and Fulgens. Everybody has done one of those, so I don't feel the need to do them, and they probably all do them a little bit better than I do. So let me roll back out, and we'll come out of live demo mode to finish this. If I can find live demo mode. And this is my wild and wacky Zoom window, and that's as complicated as that one can possibly be. And as I said previously, if I want to get rid of the names, I can just click on the names folder and it looks a little bit tidier. Probably too many names anyway. That's it from me from Edinburgh. So cheerio and enjoy. See you later. Bye for now.